Yes. Good to see everybody. Another exciting day. Second signing day. Still getting used to this two different signing days, but added some guys in this one that we were hoping on. Some we knew were coming. Some we were got some good news in the last week and a half or so. Um, but the bottom line for us was really continuing to build a couple different areas. One was the offensive line now, adding Pogo. That's now 10 offensive linemen in the last two classes. Got great length and athleticism and versatility. Some guys that can play tackle or guard, and some guys that are dedicated inside guys. So that was a big one. And also our defensive backfield, both now and in the future, adding length and athleticism and speed, and again, a comprehensive group between a group of guys that can play corner or safety and some dedicated safeties as well as some dedicated corners. And a young man like Scotty Edwards who is going to go on a mission and come back 2 years later more physically mature. And we're excited about his prospects when you watch his film. His ability to be a physical defensive back, but at the same time, he's got great ball skills and did a great job in the return game. A lot of those kickoff returns or interception returns, all those interception returns were back for touchdowns. Those were two big areas for us, which we kind of capped off this today. And on a grand scale, I'm very grateful to our coaches, to our recruiting staff for the targeted search that we go through and the process by which we go through to get to this day, adding 20 plus guys to the football team. Grateful to these young men for going through the hoops that we ask them to, because Stanford's worth it, to do more for us than other places ask them. AP courses and taking and retaking and retaking some tests in order to come to an unbelievable place like this. Grateful to them and their families for trusting us to make this a place for them to grow and be great on the field and off. In difficult times, and talk to some of the guys in the room about our process of not doing spring junior days, etc. And depending on who you look at and who you trust, it's either 7 or 8 top 25 classes that we've had in recent times, which of course is unheard of here at Stanford. But at the same time, when you add in all of the early things that other schools are doing that we're not doing, you add in the different processes that other people go through that we don't do, to still be able to recruit at a high level, in particular coming back off of a difficult year for us, still be able to recruit at a high level and find high caliber individuals that are outstanding football players that are going to add to our football team. Questions? Yeah, Kevin Carberry came in at a pretty difficult time. We had just had our one offensive lineman class join this team, and that young man was injured and was not able to play. So it was paramount that he was going to have to dig his heels in. And we recruit differently than most places. We have regions, but for him in particular, he needed to be extremely involved in recruiting these offensive linemen. And when you look at these last two classes that he's spearheaded and really helped put together, we think that we got some guys that are going to be special. Some special individually, but truly, most importantly, special together. I talked earlier about the combination of guys that have versatility, length and speed and athleticism and size. That's important for us to do what we want to do. We're coming off a year that was an aberration. It was a rough year, it was a difficult year. But you look at the pieces that we've had, that Coach Carberry's helped put together over the last 2 years. I'm excited about this group. I'm excited getting back to being able to do some things we've done in the past with multiple offensive line sets, and be the physical group that we know we have the capability to be. Trey Stratford is no longer with the team. Well, I give he and his family a lot of the credit, um, and I understand how important this is for a parent and how important this is for a young person. It's a big decision. In particular, decision is not making a decision for this year; he's making a decision for 2 years from now. The community and family that he's going to come back to, and trusting that the way that we do what we do. Um, He's going to have some great teammates to come back to. We're going to have 2 more classes by the time he rejoins us, but they're going to be of the same caliber. And the school speaks for itself. It's one of the best places on the planet to get an education, but it's that community feeling of our coaches and our players, the students on campus, this environment. It's very inviting. And when you're not here all the time, but thankfully he was able to come a couple times and be around and get that feel and know that, this is not a regional school. This is not a one religion school. I mean, this is an international school that's for achievers. And he can come to a place like this, unlike any other, where from Utah, from Arizona, from Washington, D.C., from China, from Japan, from Africa, doesn't matter, to be able to know that I can come here and get a great education and be part of a community, that we don't have to all be the same, but that we can contribute and at the same time take something back from this place to help me. And once again, he and his family saw that for themselves and couldn't be more excited, and even excited about hearing from his parents that he's going to be gone for 2 years on his mission, but they're still going to come by and catch a couple games. They love this place and love this community so much that they're going to be around, and I'm excited about that.
I don't see a quarterback on here, but is there somebody that's doing a mission or something?
Yes, Tanner McKee will be rejoining us. Tanner McKee, we by by our estimation was,
So he'll be here.
yeah, we thought he was the best quarterback in America in his class. So we're excited about him. He'll be here coming back late spring. He'll be joining the team in the summer. So he'll be around all summer with the guys and rejoining the team. Excited to see him. Excited to see his family again, and I know he's looking forward to joining his guys.
Will there be competition at quarterback, or Davis Mills can just start going in the fall?
I think Davis Mills has earned the spot that he's in right now, but I think we'll have some healthy competition at quarterback to see who's number 2 and see who's number 3, and to see who is really potentially ready to play.
Yeah, but you've got 9 kids from the state of California, which is kind of higher than you've had in the past. Did it just sort of fall that way for you this year?
Yes, every year is a new, complete blank slate, and I tell our guys all the time, we can't tell where they're going to be. We just got to go find them. So there's some years where we have more West Coast guys. There's some years where we have a ton of guys from the South. There's some years where we got a bunch of guys from Texas, and some years we have 2 guys from Texas, and some years we have a bunch of guys from the Northeast. So it all changes every single year. Our process doesn't change. Our charge is to find the Stanford guys wherever they are, and so happens this year a bunch of them were on the West Coast, but once again we were able to get back down south. We were able to get back into Texas. We were able to find guys in the Midwest and Northeast that fit what we're looking for, and conversely, we are what they were looking for. So every year they come from different places, but every year we find those Stanford guys.
Any of these guys going to participate in spring or more early?
Nope, we don't do that. They'll all come in June and start, start strength and conditioning, start working out with the team, start summer school, and kind of ramp up towards training camp, and kind of glad you asked that because it still crops up every year. So many coaches out there sell these young guys on graduate early. You're going to come in and play in spring football, and you're going to get a leg up. And it'd be so much better if you didn't come and came later. And I would put us against anybody else in America that we get guys ready to play. We'll play more. We play as many freshmen as anybody. I think our process is great to what we do for their bodies over the summer and what we do in training camp to prepare them for the season. So we don't do early enrollees. We don't have those guys come in spring football. But our end result in preparing guys to play, I'll put that up against anybody. Yes, he was committed the first signing period, but wasn't admitted, so we couldn't speak about him. Lance has length and athleticism and is explosive pass rusher. One of the things that we targeted for this class was we needed a big physical presence inside. So you see Tobin Phillips, and we needed at least one legitimate edge pass rusher, and that was Lance. And we marked him early and went through a recruiting process. A lot of people were after him, but getting to know him, we figured this was going to be a place for him. He's been excited about us for a long time, and excited about getting him in. And he's wrestling right now, so he's dropped a little bit of weight, which is fine. But he's physical, he's strong, he's extremely competitive. And like I said, he's a quick, explosive edge pass rusher. So I'll give you the short version because we could be here all day because it's extremely involved. But like anybody, we take a lot of information from a lot of different places in identifying potential Stanford men. But the bar is academic first and foremost. I tell the guys I don't want to see the film unless we have a transcript. I don't want to see it. Don't tell me how many stars. Don't tell me how many offers. Not going to bother if we're not academically, if they're not academically in our realm. So that process of identifying, putting those into groups, having our individual watch parties, our side of the ball watch parties, and then getting together and watching them as a staff. And I'm a firm believer in this. I'm a stickler here, and once again, I think our track record proves it to be so. It doesn't behoove us to over-offer because we, I've talked about this, we have so many things we need these guys to do that we need to be in constant communication with them. So with a staff of 10 assistant coaches and myself, how many people can we legitimately communicate with to go through this difficult process and walk this tight, narrow road that it takes to get to Stanford. So once we identify and we start the communication process, and for a lot of these guys that are not on the West Coast, a lot of times before we offer, we want to communicate with the coach, we want to communicate with the young man, we want to communicate with the counselor and say, okay, is this young man willing to come across country? If he's not, then we're not going to waste our time. We're not going to waste his time. Is he going to be willing to take these AP classes? What's his initial test score? How do we think he's going to do in the test? So we get a lot of information before we even think about offering. So once we have that information, we have a pool of guys that are in that category. And honestly, we go very systematically. If we're looking for 2 defensive linemen, very often we're going to offer 2, and then potentially 3, based on where everybody is academically, because some guys are not shoe-in. Sometimes they have some work to do, where they have to change their schedules. They have to do a bunch of different things. So once again, we just go very, very slowly. So while we're in the offering phase with a couple of guys, there's a whole nother group of guys that we're still getting to know. We're still watching and talking about and communicating with. And many of those guys, sometimes they don't get that initial offer because we're still fishing some things out. And then as time goes on, then we'll offer some. As time goes on, some guys fall off the board. whether they didn't get the test score, they decide not to take the AP courses, they decide, or their transcript decides that they're not going to be in our realm. Then we go to, okay, great. Those are off the board. Who's back on the board? Oh, this young man said he wasn't going to take the test. Now he's going to retake it. Now he's going to take these AP courses. So our process is very fluid. I just refuse to allow us to get over our skis to a certain degree, because our process, it takes a lot. So for us to truly do a great job of communicating with the young men that we offer and helping them through the process and talking them through the process and staying with them and staying in communication with them, because a lot of these guys are 16, 17 years old. They change too. Sometimes they're gung-ho, sometimes they're not, then they become gung-ho. So that whole process happens over months. And then we get to the point where sometimes we offer some guys late. There's some guys sitting there with 25, 30 offers, and we haven't offered, but we've been communicating. And then we offer late, and there's always that communication of, okay, what took you so long? And we talk them through our process. But the bottom line for me that I feel great about is when you offer a scholarship, it's a real offer. A lot of guys that are sitting there with 25, 30 offers really have 5 or 6 because they're not committable offers. I don't play that game. I refuse to play that game. I believe our word should mean something. When we offer a scholarship to a young man, that's a scholarship offer. It's a real scholarship offer. If we're not ready to offer, then we don't offer. And we'll continue to recruit, and a lot of times that takes a lot of conversation. Like, you haven't offered, like, oh, we're waiting for you to offer. So I don't have a spot for you. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a spot for you. I really like you. If I have a spot for you, I'm going to offer you a scholarship. So now some of those guys that we don't offer early on, that we offer later, they actually appreciate it because it's real, because it's honest, because we're up front with them. As opposed, they can't wait to follow the path that we give for them. And if we have some difficult discussions over time, I think about Justin Reed. Right, Justin Reed was a late offer, and throughout that process, it was really difficult. And we got to the end, and he was excited because we were honest with him the entire time and open with him, and came here, and it was great, and is a great example for people to follow as far as taking advantage of what this place has to offer on and off the field.
I had a question. E.J. Smith, does he run a little bit like his dad, or what do you like about the way he runs?
Yeah, I try really hard because we've had quite a few NFL players and some great college players' sons here. Try really hard not to do any comparisons and allow them to be themselves. Yeah, but EJ's versatility is what's really exciting, and that he can play running back and be a downhill runner. He can run on the edge and get outside. He can get out in space and make people miss. He can catch the ball in the backfield, and he can line up at receiver and truly run some routes as a receiver. So that's what's excited about him, and see how he grows and how he develops and what he's ready for year one. I think he could also be potentially a good return man, whether that's freshman year or beyond, and we'll see. So that's where he's exciting for us is the number of different ways he can interject himself into an offense.
And speaking name recognition with Miles Hinton, the guy got traded for John Elway. It's a weird way that fate kind of just coincides. Or
Yeah, and there's so many different things too. Where my dad was at the Minnesota Vikings when Chris Hinton was there, so my family's known his family for a long time, and Miles from early on, and we started to get to know his family and get to know his older brother. Miles was early on one of those guys who were like, you know what, we think this is a Stanford man, and he's been excited about us for a long time and done all the things we needed to. And once again, just by happenstance, going to see Davis Mills playing the state championship game in Georgia, and one of the guys grabs me and says, hey, there's a freshman tackle that's playing right now that's been starting all year, that has outstanding grades and has been talking to Davis about Stanford, and he might want to take a look at him. Then it's like, oh, what's his name? And he's a Hinton. I was like, oh my gosh, Chris Hinton. My dad knows Chris Hinton. So these football circles are really tight, but we're excited about where Miles is. Miles is a big athletic, quick, explosive, physical young man that is only going to grow and get bigger and better.
Yeah, no Bay Area guys, but I mean, you don't force it. I think that's the statement you've made, right?
Yep, we don't try to recruit a region. We just look for the guys. Wherever they are, we'll go find them. Honestly, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've gotten quite a few Bay Area guys, but it's not going to be every single year. But we're always going to look. But we're going coast to coast and crossing oceans just in case to find our guys.
Follow up on the process question. Would you say that all or most offer decisions are made in the full staff meeting, or when are there occasions that like maybe one assistant can pull the trigger or one side of the ball can pull the trigger?
I pulled the trigger.
And then wondering your thoughts on Coach Hanson's time here and what you expect of him at UNLV, and then your timeline for a new inside linebacker coach.
Well, Pete Hansen has a long storied history in this area, with his dad being a longtime head coach at Palo Alto High School. Pete coming by to visit and saying hi periodically, and then coming back home, close to home here, and starting in the weight room, being a weight room assistant, and then just kind of helping out, and then becoming, an assistant with the 49ers, following Vic Fangio from here to the 49ers. And to me, that was the big time for him because Vic did such a great job here that Orange Bowl year. And then taking Pete with him, Pete grew so much in a 2 or 3 year span just being with Vic Fangio, who's brilliant. And Vic trusted him and gave him a lot to do. All my time in the NFL is there's so much to do. And sometimes you have some assistants that are great in the office, some assistants that are great on the field, and some guys are great in both. And that's all we heard from the 49ers was how valuable Pete was making himself. And we needed a linebacker coach, and he was ready for it, and he did a great job. And to watch him help develop a Blake Martinez, to watch him take a young Bobby Okereke and watch him grow and mature and become a playmaker. This year for me was the toughest year probably, but it didn't feel that way because you take Andrew Pritz, who was a safety, and Curtis Robinson, who was an outside linebacker, and both of them, those ends up being your two inside linebackers, and they played well all year. Two guys that are really playing out of position. So I thought he did a great job preparing those guys, and he's been ready for a couple of years to be a coordinator, and it just felt like a great opportunity. He's extremely excited about it. I think he's going to do well. I think he's got a great combination of what Coach Fangio did and some of the things that we morphed into here and his own ideas about what to do. So I think he's going to do well. I think for us, it'll be a short period of time before we can make an announcement. But I feel very good about filling that position sooner than later.
Kirsten Lee's from the Chase Thomas country. You think he could be another Chase Thomas? Or?
We'll see. We'll see. Really like his film. Like how active he is. He's athletic. He's long. Makes a lot of tackles. Makes a lot of tackles that you don't think he's going to make when the play starts. And you see him run a guy down. You see him make some plays. So we're excited to get him here and see how soon he can contribute.
Any significant movement in terms of guys to be available or not available for spring?
We're going to have that meeting kind of next week, kind of see where they are. We'll do a similar spring football to what we did last year, whereas that first session is not going to be a ton of team. We have so many guys coming back. We will be able to do team. Actually, we have more healthy guys this winter than we had last year in winter to be in the winter conditioning and doing our early spring football. But it's going to be a lot of drills, a lot of skills, a lot of individual periods, a lot of teaching, but at the same time keeping it competitive, but not a lot of team tackling, et cetera. So I think we'll have a high percentage of our guys ready for a lot of that individual work, getting on the field. A lot of those guys are on the field running right now that were injured last year. So we'll have a lot of guys in the individual periods and when it transitions to team, then we'll have some guys that we'll keep out just so we don't, disturb their recovery process. But we'll still be able to do some of the team kind of later in that first session of spring. But early on, we're going to have a high level of participation in our skills and individual periods.
For different reasons, this will be the third straight spring where it's going to be very difficult, if not kind of impossible, to have two team periods at the same time. You guys have shifted to a lot of individual stuff to make up for it and to still be teaching. Wondering how impactful do you think that's been, while at the same time, how well do you think you've covered it with the shift that it's been?
Oh, I think we've done a really good job. Last year was more difficult than it will be this year. Like I said, we'll be able to. Last year we cut a lot of things short. Even when we did teams, sometimes we did half line, sometimes we slowed it down. We'll be able to go, and when we practice team, we'll be able to practice. We'll still have some guys rotating in. We don't have two full teams to play against each other on different fields, but we'll be able to field an entire offensive line, which we couldn't do part of the time last year. We have the numbers this year. We have the numbers on the defensive line. We have the numbers of defensive back and receiver. We're not low on numbers to practice, whereas that's where we were last year. So we're in a better position for this spring than we were last year. As far as when we are able to practice, we don't have to slow it down. We don't have to shorten the period down. When we put the helmets on, the shoulder pads on, and we play team, it's going to be football.
The fact that you didn't have a bowl game, so you didn't get those extra practices, does that affect development in some way, or how did you?
Well, it's. I think it ends up evening out. We weren't able to go to a bowl game. We weren't able to get those 15 extra practices. But all those guys that we would get the practice for, those guys were playing. So, like, those guys got a lot of experience. And for those guys that weren't weren't playing, they were getting a lot of practice time also because they were backups. Like some of those guys that redshirted, they were 1 injury, 2 injuries away from playing. So what we didn't have was a bunch of guys that are just doing scout team and not learning anything. There was a huge crossover with our scout teams. We're rotating scout teams to get reps with the offense and the defense because they had to be ready. So we missed out on those extra practices, but we got that during the season, which typically you don't get that. So even our Friday little pup scrimmages and all those things we weren't able to do, but we didn't need to do them because those guys all knew the game plan. They're all ready to play because they were on the verge of playing. So we did miss that, but at the same time, it ended up evening out. Those young guys got a lot of experience. Some of them got a lot of game experience. A lot of those guys got a lot of practice experience.
One more question on Scotty Edwards. He was a pretty, kind of pick your favorite, either describe him as low profile or under the radar. I know that when you guys identified him, I heard how excited you guys were about his playmaking skills. But do you ever kind of sit back and wonder, like, why isn't everyone else seeing what we're seeing?
Never. I tell the coaches all the time, trust your eyes. All right, what we do and how we do it, so many, and I can't underestimate this, way too many coaches care about how many offers does he have, how many stars is he. I've cautioned athletic directors and people I've talked to at different places not to put bonuses on recruiting rankings, because now you're forcing your coaches to chase stars instead of chasing players. Whereas I could rattle off 20 3-star guys right now that played well for us that are playing in the NFL because they were misevaluated, because they didn't go to all the camps and they didn't go do the one-on-ones and they didn't go do this 5-star camp and they didn't go to all these places so all these people could see them and change their rankings. But when you watch the film, they're good football players. And, my favorite one to talk about is Blake Martinez. Just everyone that saw him live fell in love with him. Everybody that saw him on film was kind of like, I'm not really sure. So I always say, trust your eyes. Blake Martinez, saw the film, it was okay. We brought him on campus 5 minutes into camp. I said, that's the guy. That's him. That's the guy. It took us 5 minutes to watch him move, watch him drop his hips and explode. Owen Marisek's the other one. 2 stars or whatever from Oregon, and people talk about the level of competition, blah, blah, blah. And the first time you watch Owen Marisek hit somebody, You say, that's a starting fullback right there. So I tell our guys all the time, trust your eyes. When you watch Scotty, two things with Scotty. One, when you watch him, he's always around the ball. He tips the ball. He intercepts the ball. He passes two guys that are supposed to be faster than him and makes the tackle. The second thing on him is when you talk to the coaches in the area, which Coach Anderson is a famous or infamous, however you want to say it, in the state of Utah. All the coaches in the area say, gosh, we hate playing that guy. We hate playing that guy. We tell the quarterbacks you can't throw the ball anywhere close to him because he's going to take it. You know, if he's back there in punt return or you don't want to kick it to him, he just has a knack for making plays. So those people that don't, understand the star system like me, that I don't, we just trust our eyes, and the guy makes plays.
Comment on Mike Leach hitting the road to Mississippi State, or did that surprise you?
Nothing surprises me about Mike Leach. Nothing he says, nothing he does. Been around him too long. So wish him well. He's going to throw for a ton of yards everywhere he goes, and he'll have some success.
How about KJ?
I'm excited about all of our fifth-year guys that have found a place to go and found a welcoming situation, and I think that's a good match for KJ.